we're talking about happiness. Happiness. Yeah, so lessons in the art of living. That's what we've been talking about all month. Today is the art of happiness. Yeah, so, you know, there's this pressure, isn't there? There's a pressure in our society to be happy. Yes? Particularly in spiritual communities. It's like, you know, because you come to these communities and you learn these principles and you practice things and you learn about the power of the mind, and then suddenly we feel like we can't be authentic with what we're going through, that we have to say, oh, I'm great, I got it all together, I'm practicing the principles, I'm doing all this great stuff, I'm good.
Shut the other mic off.
What was that?
Shut the other mic off, so there's some feedback or something.
Is there feedback, Chris?
I think we should be okay.
The mic is happy. Yeah, right? Yeah, we get there? Okay. So, and I think it's interesting too when someone says, how are you? What do we say typically? Whether we're good or not. Great. Good. Oh, great. I've been trying to do that, to be more authentic with that response. So rather than, if I'm not feeling great, I'm okay. Because we get into that habit, it becomes this habitual thing of saying, oh, I'm good, yeah, when really we're not. So there is this pressure, yes, there's this pressure to be happy, to always be happy. But what creates happiness? What creates joy? Certainly listening to Eamon earlier was creating joy in a lot of us, as he was sharing his joy. Yeah, and you know, it's something that we often rely on things outside of ourselves. When I reach a certain level of success, I'll be happy. When I achieve a certain amount of money, I'll be happy. When I find my soulmate, I will be happy. When my partner does X, I will be happy. Yes, some of you are like, yes. But as we all have heard, at least in spiritual communities, and even outside of spiritual communities, it's an inside job. It truly is an inside job. And I think that there are 3 key ingredients to experiencing happiness in our life. One is forgiveness. I'm going to talk about that. I talked about it 2 weeks ago. I'm going to dive in a little bit more to forgiveness and why I feel that that's tied to happiness. The other is appreciation of ourselves and loving ourselves. That is also connected. And the third is disciplining our mind to make a choice in the moment, to make a choice and choose to see things through a different lens, through a different perspective. So I'm going to talk about those 3. There was a time in my life when I was very dependent on what was happening in my life outside of myself. And there was also a time when I was in my teen years and in my 20s, I wasn't so happy. When I was a teenager in high school, did any of you have peachy folders? Yeah. Does anybody know what peachy folders are? They had the sports characters on there. So we all had them. And you know, the saying, life is a beach. Well, I had a slightly different version of that. And I'm laughing now, but at the time it wasn't really funny. I mean, I would write, life is a bitch and then you die. Like that was the energy that I was living as a teen. And not only did I write it on my peachy folders, I wrote it on my sheets. Why I did that, I don't know. On my bed sheets. Yes. So I was walking around so heavy, and in fact, and I think I've shared this before, for a long time I walked with my head down, literally head down. So it was very hard for me to connect with people, and it represented what I was carrying. I was carrying a lot of resentment and anger towards a few people from my past. Yeah. And then I did this course. And in the course, we had to write our whole story. Okay, pages. It didn't matter how long. We all sat there. They gave us time. You're going to write your whole story, who you're angry at, who you're pissed at. Write the whole thing. So we did that. There's about 200 people in the room. And then they said, okay, you're going to pair up with someone, and you're each going to take turns sharing your story. So I had all my drama and all my anger and all my upset. And you're going to read that story out loud over and over and over. Even if it takes 2 hours, you're going to keep reading it, and the person just sits there and receives. You finally get to a point where it becomes funny. Like really funny. You hear people erupting in laughter on the other side of the room, and then pretty soon the whole room, and you're falling off your chair because you're laughing so hard at the ridiculousness of the story that you were hanging on to. Yeah. And so what happened to me in that whole process is I got to a place of fully letting it go and forgiving the individuals that I had been holding such resentment towards. So I did some other work as well, but the piece that I want you to hear is the forgiveness piece. Because what happened to me is as I was able to let that go and fully forgive and release that burden, my God, I had a 1,000-pound weight on my shoulders, truly. And when I lifted that, what was available to me and what I experienced was joy, absolute joy. The other piece that also came forward for me in that course was self-appreciation and love. Because I spent years beating myself up, making myself wrong, criticizing myself for every little thing, even if it was someone else's fault. Somehow I'd make it about me. Somehow I would do that. And so I spent years doing that to myself. So it's no wonder I was walking through life with my head down. My self-esteem was so low, I couldn't hold myself up and be who I truly was and express all that I was. So once I started to also, I looked at every area of my life. In this course, you're peeling back everything. So looking at my appearance, my gifts, my talents, for the first time, I started to look and appreciate who I was and where I came from and my gifts that I got from my parents and the gifts that I came in the world with. And I remember this moment so clearly. I was 25 years old, and I was standing in this course, and I stood up, and I held my head up for the first time, and I smiled. It was the most extraordinary moment, and my life has never been the same since. And it's truly because of the forgiveness piece and what I let go of, and the fact that I was able to appreciate myself in a way that I never could before. Two key ingredients to the joy that came through me. Yeah. So when we are in those places, when we are not feeling joy, and we come to a spiritual community like this and we think, I got to get from here to there. I got to get to joy. There's something wrong with me if I can't get to joy. But you know, Abraham Hicks talks about finding a thought that feels better. Find a thought that feels better. So you're feeling anger. What's underneath anger? Sadness. Well, we move from anger, we take a step into maybe sadness. Okay, I'm feeling sad right now. Then from sadness, we move into hope. And then from hope, we move into maybe starting to feel some joy. So it's a process. It's not as if you can move from this to that. It's a process. So finding a thought that feels better. And this is a gift that we've been given by the divine, is choice. We always have a choice. And the other key ingredient in this, in the art of achieving the art of happiness, achieving happiness in our life, is disciplining the mind. And what that's about is choice, choosing in every moment. Now, does it mean that since I did that course more than 20 years ago, or not quite, long time ago, does it mean that I never have moments where I'm beating myself up? Does it never mean that I don't have moments where I feel sad or hopeless? Absolutely not. I still have those moments. I'm human. But the difference is that I've disciplined my mind so that in those moments I make a choice. I choose to focus on the beauty. I choose to focus on underneath what's happening in this situation. How can I see this differently? The Dalai Lama said happiness can be achieved through training the mind. It truly is about training the mind. And we're all at different stages of that. We're all at different stages. There was a period that I was going through where when I was feeling depressed. And you know those times, I'm laughing, because it's funny now. When you're so depressed, and then you put on sad music, and then you put on another song that's sad, and then another song that's sad, and let me hear that one more time, because it just, wow, I spent a lot of time hanging out in that world. And then once I started gaining tools, I had a choice, and I realized, so I can choose to stay stuck, because sometimes it's almost like an addiction. We want to just stay stuck. It feels good to just stir in that stuff. Yeah? Am I the only one that they can relate to that? It feels good, doesn't it? Yes. It's okay to admit it. Yeah. But we have a choice. So once I realized that I had a choice, how powerful was that? Wow, I can actually choose a different thought right now. I can choose to see something different right now. I have that power to choose. We all do in every moment. And, I remember as I was testing this and working through this stuff, a negative thought would come in, and what I would do is just focus on something simple. What am I going to make for dinner tonight? It's as simple as that. That sounds silly, but now the mind loves the familiar. The brain loves the familiar. It loves homeostasis. It'll keep doing and repeating the patterns over and over again. But if we suddenly shift our thought to something else, what am I going to do for dinner tonight? Let me play the happy song that Stephanie just sang, yeah? Something to shift the focus of the mind, something simple. And as I started doing that, over time, the negativity didn't stay anymore. It would come in, and then it would go. Come in and then go. So disciplining our mind is part of this. And it's a process, and there are going to be days when you're not going to be able to do that. There's going to be days when it's going to pull you downwards. And that's okay. It's part of the human walk. We all have those moments when we're not able to pull ourselves out, and that's when we reach out to a practitioner. We reach out to a minister for support and for help. But you know those days, though, when you're stuck in it, when you're hanging out in it a little longer than maybe you should. And it's those moments that's when we have a choice and to pull ourselves out. So these three key ingredients are truly powerful, only because I've lived them myself. There's other things that certainly we can do to create joy and happiness in our life. But if you're willing, if you're brave enough, if you're courageous enough to move into forgiveness in a way that you haven't before, like really, like what are you hanging on to? Is it worth it? Is it worth hanging on to that thing? Truly. And what are the areas in your life that you're not appreciating about you? What are the things that you know that, gosh, I'm really hard on myself in that one thing. I need to let that go. And be more gentle with yourself. Be more loving with yourself. You know, we're here as human beings, all banging around, doing the best that we can. But truly, joy and happiness is our birthright. It's our birthright. It's who we are meant to be. It's who we are meant to express in the world. And you know, it's also about looking for joy. Not becoming dependent on something outside of us, but looking for it. This is also something that I have developed over time. Just this last week, I was in Loveland with my boyfriend Ray, and we went into a shop, this little cupcake shop. And this woman, her name's Amber, and she, what was so wonderful about this moment for me is just the two of us and her, were sitting in her shop, and I was just asking her about her background. How'd you get here? How did you start your business? To me, that's joy. Hearing her, she was so filled with passion and excitement about what she's up to in the world. And I left there and I said to Greg, I said, that was so cool. I love those moments. I love those moments. Looking for the beauty in life, finding it in whatever way that speaks to you. And so every day I find that. And it's not something now that I even have to effort to do. When we first start this journey of happiness, we might have to really search for, okay, what is that thing that brings me joy? And then it becomes part of your daily living. Part of it. Where you automatically then just start to notice the joy. You start to notice it. I was in a restaurant on Thursday night, and the Dark Horse in Boulder. Anybody know that place? Okay. It's just an interesting place. I was there for a going away party, and we're sitting there with a bunch of people, and I glance over, and there's this beautiful little baby. And he and I made eye contact, and he's smiling, and I'm smiling, and it was this beautiful moment. This beautiful moment. Every day has those moments. Every single day. But we have to look for them and expect them. As it says in your affirmation, expectancy. Expect to find joy. Expect to experience joy. It's up to us. It's up to us. That is the gift that we have been given, is that we have that choice. We can stay stuck. We can focus on the negative stuff from our past and who has hurt us and who has wounded us. Or we can choose to let it go. We can choose to focus on our greatness. That's one of the things I loved about this course, and the course I'm referring to is Landmark Education, if anybody's done Landmark. Truly the most extraordinary thing I've ever done in my life. And they talked about living your life to the fullest. Truly living your life to the fullest. What does that look like for you? For each of us, it's different. And sometimes that requires us to be courageous. It requires us to be brave. It requires us to do things that we have been putting off or are resistant to doing for whatever reason. We feel that resistance. And I've been there many times, I understand that. But it's feeling it and being willing and courageous enough to take a step anyway. Because what is it costing us? What is it costing us by hanging on to stuff? It's costing us our joy. It's costing us love in our life. It's costing us living our life to the fullest. The only reason I'm able to stand up here and do what I do is because I did all of that. Because I released and I let go and I forgave. And I worked on appreciating and loving who I am. And I choose in every moment to find the beauty in it. So it is a discipline. It is a choice. I want to read to you a beautiful affirmation that is by our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. Actually, I'm going to change that. I'm a minister, I'm standing up here, I can change it. Yeah. Switching it up here. So this is a author unknown, and this is all about choice. One evening, an old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside people. To see your life through a different lens and make different choices. Choose to see the beauty. Choose to see the light here in this community, in the world, in your families. Make that choice to see that. And I can promise you, if you're willing to do that, even if you take one small step, that you absolutely will experience more joy, more happiness in your life. You all willing to take some steps towards that? Yeah? All right. I know. See your faces from up here. It's quite interesting. Yeah. All right, so I'm now going to end with this beautiful collection of affirmations written by our beloved founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. So I just encourage you as I read this to, if you want to close your eyes and just take it in as if you are speaking it to yourself. I am keeping my mind on thoughts of happiness. I radiate joy and I am filled with faith, hope, and expectancy. I am a success now. Nothing can hinder me from accomplishing my good. All the power of the universe is with me. I feel it, I know it, and my actions reflect these truths. I see only what I wish to experience and look at nothing else. I believe in God, the limitless power of the universe, the great principle of life. I never waver in my belief. There are no failures in the universe. The Spirit never fails. I see this, I feel it, I know it. I am a success now. I expect the best. I believe and I receive my good today and every day. I see, I feel, and I know this to be true. And so it is.
So it is.
So let's just take this into prayer and invite ministers and practitioners to please stand in high consciousness. So yes, indeed, we feel that expectancy of joy in our life. As we move through life, I'm knowing that we are able to let go a little bit more and a little bit more, moving into that space of joy that is always there waiting for us. I'm knowing that as we move through our lives, for each of us, that we are experiencing more happiness, more joy, more harmony and grace in our lives. As we practice these principles, as we practice these things in our lives, and I am knowing that the powerful force of God is showing up, supporting each of us on this journey. Because we are never alone in this. We are never by ourselves in this journey. God is always right there, always there supporting us. We just simply need to declare what it is we desire in our life. Whether it's forgiving someone that we feel we just can't do it. We ask for support. We pray knowing that that is coming, that that is happening. And we also ask to know our pure perfection and all that we are and appreciate who we are in a way that we haven't before. And so we ask for that. And we ask to be able to see life through a new lens, to see the beauty in our life in a way that wasn't there before. And so I am knowing that as we are taking this out into our life, that we are practicing this, that we are living this. And as we express our joy through these experiences, that joy goes out, that vibration goes out and it touches everyone around us. And so for that, I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for the unfolding that is taking place. I'm so grateful for the love and the beauty and the joy that is right here and is always here within us. And I am knowing that we are accessing that and expressing that and expanding that even more every day. And so I give thanks for the unfolding for each of us. I give thanks for the blessings that are surrounding this community and surrounding all of us on this journey, this human walk. And so I release this, I let this go, and I hand it over to the divine, knowing that the divine always has a sacred yes for us. Always says yes to what it is that we declare, to what it is that we desire. And so we let this go, we allow it to be, and we ground it in together by saying, and so it is.
When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway.